Hello and welcome to Mason Cable Networks from the cinema. My name is Alex Dodson, and I'm here to wish you a happy Halloween, and we're going to be discussing some movies coming out in the Johnson Center Cinema this weekend. Now, some of you may already know about the JC Cinema. For those who don't, it's one of Mason's best programs. Not only do you get to watch movies for free as a Mason student, but the movies tend to range from merely watchable to top quality filmmaking. Ultimately, my goal for this show is to provide you with a little preview into the week's upcoming films and hopefully persuade you to go enjoy a free movie the way they're meant to be enjoyed, on the big screen. Besides, all movies are better when they're free. Getting into it now, the pictures that we'll be showing this weekend are two very different types of horror films. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, the Chernobyl Diaries is the holdover from last week, while on Saturday and Sunday night, Cabin in the Woods will make you scream, laugh, and then cry out in terror, often at the same time. The Chernobyl Diaries brings you a found footage style story of an unsuspecting group of attractive young adults who willfully explore a hostile environment, while Cabin in the Woods brings you a cat and mouse tale of an unsuspecting group of attractive young adults who are terrorized in a remote cabin in the middle of the woods. However, this film provides a twist that steers away from straight-up horror and leads us down a path composed of film genre critique, an underground facility, and a science fiction lover's dream come true. Since the decision of which film to see this weekend is simply too much to bear for one person's mind alone, let's talk about what you're going to be seeing this weekend. Now, since I talked about the Chernobyl Diaries already last week, I'll keep this section brief. This horror flick attempts to draw on the wave of found footage horror films that have been polluting the genre for the past couple of years now. The story follows a group of tourists who want to go on an extreme tourism adventure in Chernobyl, the place which housed the worst nuclear power plant accident in history. Naturally, the car won't start on their way out, and things just keep getting worse after that. I don't want to spoil anything, but it goes without saying that a lot of people die. And unfortunately, this is where the main problem with the film comes into light. I wasn't really afraid of anything, especially when they were dying. Now, what the Chernobyl Diaries lacks is a clear and focused villain or a monster. This type of horror it utilizes in the film hides itself in the dark and lets your mind create the terror of what could be chasing you. Regrettably, this film's application of this horror style did not transfer to the big screen. Now, I'm not saying this movie was a complete waste of time. What interested me most about the story, though, was the ending, which unfortunately I can't really talk about in this review. Just know this, though. The ending was really cool and kind of makes up for the rest of this boring and scareless movie. I wish the ending, which featured a cool twist, could have been the basis for the entire movie since it was so much more interesting than what preceded it. For me, this appealing ending turned out to be a wasted creative opportunity. And this leads me perfectly into Cabin in the Woods. What the film industry needs is more original works, particularly pulling from the talented writers and directors of the ever-increasing cinematic styles of cable television. Most recently, Alan Taylor, an established HBO director for shows such as Deadwood and Game of Thrones, is a prime example of this growing trend. He got pulled up to the big leagues to direct Thor 2: The Dark World. The reason I mention him in this is because the geniuses behind Cabin in the Woods, my second favorite film of the year, comes from its writers. The director and co-writer, Drew Goddard, wrote TV episodes for his shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Alias, Lost, and the Cloverfield movie. His eclipsing co-writer on this venture is the cult-like god Joss Whedon, best known for his extensive works on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Firefly, Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, and most recently The Avengers. These two have crafted a revitalization of the slasher genre and a critical satire on torture porn. The slasher genre is best known for the bloody swath its demented killers take out across the screen, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. Torture porn is another subgenre of horror with a particular emphasis on bodily mutilation, often mixed with nudity and copious amounts of blood, seen in like the Saw movies and Hostel. Now, Cabin in the Woods addresses both the decline in quality of scary slasher films and the insurgence of the crude horror substitute of torture porn. Let's talk about what Cabin in the Woods is actually about, and not just what it's trying to do in current-day cinema. The film follows two intertwining, yet separate stories that take place in the same cabin. This group of teenagers is drawn out to the middle of the forest to be subjects in some kind of experiment that is going on deep below the cabin in a sprawling underground laboratory. The scientists create an environment that is cookie-cutter palette for most scary story situations. Then they drop the attractive young adults into the mix, unleashing horrors upon them. Utilizing the stereotypes of horror film characters such as the athlete, the whore, the scholar, the virgin, and the fool is essential to the mysterious experiment. The first act is full of meta and hilarious horror movie cliches and provides the setup for the inevitable evil, all the while completely engrossing us in the curiosities and possibilities of what the scientists are doing below the cabin. The second act unleashes the evil, and we watch as the blood rains down on the victims. Finally, the third act of the film contains multiple plot twists, and eventually the big reveal that literally left me with my mouth hanging wide open. The one bad thing I have to say about Cabin in the Woods is that it is used solely as a vehicle for Goddard and Whedon's criticism of the horror genre. It's an outrageously entertaining ride that makes you think about what you just watched when you're done, but there's no heart at its core. You sacrifice any emotional attachments to the characters so you can enjoy the grander and overlying agenda of the filmmakers. So what movie will you be seeing this weekend? This is where I come in. The Chernobyl Diaries is a great setup for Cabin in the Woods because it exemplifies so many of the things that are wrong with the horror genre, but leaves us with a creative and intriguing ending that leaves us craving for some original science fiction and horror concepts. Then Cabin in the Woods steps in and makes you a happy moviegoer because the film was fantastic. Even though Looper came in and ended its 6-month reign as my favorite film of 2012, Cabin in the Woods is still a must-see. However, I would personally recommend catching the double feature this Saturday. Now, no matter what you decide to do this weekend, I guarantee that you'll have a good time at the Johnson Center Cinema. Showtimes for the Chernobyl Diaries are 9 p.m. on Thursday, 6 and 9 on Friday, and 6 on Saturday. Cabin in the Woods will be showing at 9 on Saturday and 6 on Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. Watch for me next week when we'll discuss another movie that's playing in the JC Cinema. Have a happy Halloween.